You still trying to break into the coding market? I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you don't have a dev job yet. Hey, if you're new to the channel, my name is Bobby Davis. I'm the founder and CEO of Coder Foundry, a boot camp where we teach you how to code. Hey, if you like our content, please subscribe, give us a like, and hit the bell for notifications about all of our future great content. Hey, here on the Coder Foundry YouTube channel, we get a lot of comments. And one of the comments we got the other day was from someone that said he applied to 600 jobs and he hadn't had a dev job yet. And he'd done all the things that we'd asked him to do. But on further inspection, we noticed there's probably 5 really good reasons why you're not finding success if you've been applying a lot or you've been looking for a job for quite a while. And so let's go over the reasons why you don't have a dev job. So the very first reason we see people don't have a job is that they don't have a portfolio or their portfolio is really weak. Now you're thinking, what do I mean by weak? We were looking at a guy's portfolio and it was just basically a glorified contact me page. It really didn't describe his skills and it didn't link to any projects or any known work. And he didn't have experience working as a dev. In order to overcome your lack of experience or trying to get that first software job, you need to show project work on your portfolio, something they can see. Now, a lot of people make this mistake and think, oh, I've got a GitHub. I'll just put a link to my GitHub on portfolio. And that is a mistake. The GitHub requires that the person interviewing you can clone a repo and get that working. If they can't get it working, maybe there's a dependencies not including the repo, or the install isn't straightforward. They're just going to look at you as a bad candidate. They want something simple and easy for them to do to be able to quickly identify if you're a good fit or even you should be an interview. So if you're not getting any callbacks off your portfolio, it's probably because it's very weak. It could be not attractive. Look at it hard in the mirror and go, is this really cool? Does this really put me in the best light? Or actually pass it around to some people your opinions you trust and say, hey, what do you think of this portfolio? Is it attractive? Does it make sense? Can you find everything? But let's go a little bit back into GitHub. Once you get to your GitHub, what you need to do is have all of those projects published. And then in the README page, put a link that's a button that says, click here to see the published version. Don't rely on the fact that they're going to peruse through your code or clone the repo to get it working, because I don't think they will. But if you show them a working app, that's going to take your portfolio to the next level. Now, the second reason we see when we look at portfolios is the projects aren't branded. So let's say you went through the effort and you build out a GitHub repo. You actually published it to Heroku or Netlify or Azure or AWS, and you've got these working projects, but they're not branded. And so they don't look like professional grade apps. Now, the first thing I want you to think about is this: if you're building a to-do list, okay, or you're building Yelp Camp, if you went through some of the more popular coding tutorials, what I want you to do is take that and make it real. It needs to not look like something that you did during a coding tutorial, but a professional branded piece of professional enterprise grade software. So for example, let's say I made a to-do list and the to-do list just allows me to add and remove items. And you're thinking, hey, that's kind of cool. But what you could do is call it like my shopping list or checkout, or give it a name and put a logo on it and put a brand on it, and then add more features to it. So maybe it's integrated with an API that brings in real prices for the price of milk and eggs and bread if you're making something for a grocery shopping list, or if you're making a parts list when you run to the hardware store for your home project. Maybe you can get an API list to get the price of wood or something like that, but make that thing real and useful. Now, what we do to make the to-do list better is that we build an actual bug tracker. Now, if you think about ultimately what a bug tracker does, it allows people to submit items, work it through a workflow, and then track that all the way to completion. It is a giant to-do list, but we make it branded around it. Now, the second thing that you need to do is in these projects, I think they need to be professional grade, which means they must implement security, like a login and role-based security. And I think if your app doesn't do that, expand the scope of it so that you can fit that in. once you do have a login capability, I also want you to make demo logins. Now, you're probably thinking that's counterintuitive. So for the dev manager that's trying to quickly peruse if this is good or not, they're not really checking to see if it works. They just want to look at it. Give them an admin demo login or a role-based logins where they can demo the application without having to register with their app, give you their email address and those kind of things. So make it real easy for them to demo your apps. And I think if you brand them and make them more professional, put a project around them, and they look and behave like an enterprise professional paid application, and then you give them an easy way to demo it, I think you're well on your way to getting that callback. So the person that contacted us on YouTube had applied to 600 jobs, according to him. So let's take him on his face value that he actually went through the process of going to somewhere like an Indeed, and he submitted 600 blind applications. What that implies to me is that he is not working with a recruiter. And we talk about this a lot. I can't stress this enough. If you're not working with a recruiter, it's just limiting your opportunities because you need to understand how these jobs are filled. So let's say that I'm a dev manager and I'm looking to hire a couple of junior devs. One of the things that I'm going to do is I could go to LinkedIn and do a search. I could go to GitHub and try to find someone that's a junior dev and spend a lot of legwork doing that. Or I could just call a recruiter and then that recruiter does the search for me. Or they may already have people they have found that I can start interviewing the next day. So I have to spend 7 to 10 days looking for someone. Someone sends me a curated list of resumes and portfolios that I can then start looking at to see if any of those are a fit for my organization. I may even post a job on Indeed and then also use the services of a recruiter to augment my job post. Now, in reality, how this works out is if I've posted it on Indeed, and then my recruiter that's helping me as the company comes in and gives me 5 resumes, I may not find any applicants from that post for like 1 to 2 or 3 days, but I may already be deep into the interview process. And so a lot of times when you're applying to jobs on like Indeed.com or these job posting engines, a lot of times they've already been placed or they're deep into the interview process because the recruiter is already presenting candidates to them. And if you're not working with a recruiter, guess what's not happening? You're not being presented. Now, the second thing a recruiter can do is sell you into the organization. They can help you have answers for maybe a gap in employment or the fact that you're completely self-taught or that you went to a boot camp. They can also make them aware of your project work in your portfolio when you have one. So step 1, build a portfolio, make projects. The recruiter can show those to the hiring manager and help you get a better chance of getting an interview because sometimes they may miss that on just a blank resume. The other thing you need to understand about recruiters is the fee they charged is paid by the company. It's at no cost to you. So if you work with a recruiter and they say, hey, pay me $2,000 and I'll find you a job, that's a scam. You don't need to do that. What you need to do is work with a recruiter whose fee is paid by the company. And most legitimate recruiters working in today, that's how they're compensated and that's how they're paid. And most of them work that way. So it's free to you. It's absolutely critical that you use them because they're holding all the jobs anyway. So work with a recruiter and increase your chances to getting that first software job. So the comments we get on the YouTube guide referring to the person that had applied 600 times. And one of the things that we think happened with this individual, but we see it happen every day with Coder Foundry grads, is that their follow-up game is non-existent. And you may be asking, what do I mean by follow-up game? Well, let's say that you're working with a recruiter, but you also apply directly to some jobs that the recruiter can't handle for you or they don't have a contact. What you need to do is research the company, find out who the hiring manager is, and call them after you apply. Send them an email after you apply and continue to ask for the job. Because I promise you, that's how a recruiter works. They call these people on the phone directly. They call the HR departments directly. They send them emails. It's an outbound marketing effort. If you fill out an app waiting for the response to come back, you're going to be disappointed because a lot of those times they get screened out by HR or they get thrown in a pile. You just don't know what's happening, and you don't get callbacks. So what you need to do is be proactive. Say, try this. You call in there and say, hey, I applied to your junior dev role here at your company, and I did some research, and it looks like my skills, and give them 3 reasons why, really match. Well, because I've built 3 projects on my portfolio. If I could show you my portfolio, you could see what I'm talking about. And those skills line up nicely with the stack that you're hiring for. And that's how you make a conversation. Do you think I could have a conversation? Now, the other technique you can use is using LinkedIn or Twitter. Is you can DM the hiring manager directly, or send what we call an email with LinkedIn, and you can ask them to review your portfolio. So maybe there's not an exact job fit for you, but you can review their portfolio, because here's what could happen. You're looking at job placings that you found. They may have another job listing that's not listed, or another opening that's not listed, and then you may be a fit for that as well. So you maybe get a job that's not even listed, that you're not even applying for. And so that's why you have to follow up, and follow up. And what you want to do is ask for a conversation, or get a yes or a no, which means, yeah, come on in and interview, or no, we're not interested in your work. And then you cross them off the list and you move on. So your follow-up game has to be on point. And if it is, you're going to get more and more interview opportunities. So now we've talked about your follow-up game. It also really nicely dovetails in our next thing that you don't have, which is no social presence. Now, a lot of times people looked at LinkedIn as kind of this run-of-the-mill, not very useful network. And I can tell you, for people that are looking for jobs, specifically coders, recruiters are using LinkedIn almost exclusively to find people. And if the company is doing their own search, they're not really looking at GitHub to find repos. They're looking at LinkedIn to find a person, and hopefully they have the skills they have. So if you're not on LinkedIn, you're invisible. You might as well not be applying for things. Here's the second thing that happens. Once you apply for a job, and then they look at your resume and maybe your portfolio, and then they go try to find you on LinkedIn and you're not there, it brings you down as a candidate. I cannot stress this strongly enough. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you don't exist. And if you don't exist, it's going to be really hard for them to find you. And if they can't find you, they can't even get you an interview. So create that LinkedIn profile right now, today. That's one of the best things that you can do to start increasing the odds of you getting an interview. Now, let's talk about LinkedIn a little bit. The first thing that you've got to do in LinkedIn is set up a great picture. Now, a lot of people have a lot of debate around this, but I still believe having a great professional photo is something that you need to do. And so the things that you can avoid are things like, okay, this is my wedding photo and it's got your wife like cut off to the side. We don't want to do that. It's got a photo of you hanging out in the bar with your buddies. We don't want to do that. It's you playing a guitar, unless you're applying to be a rock star, but we're trying to be a coder. Those are not the right photos to put. I think you need to put a professional headshot together that makes you look like you're serious about what you're doing. And the second thing you need to do, or the rest of you need to do, is fill the profile completely. When you look at weak LinkedIn portfolios, they're going to think you're a weak candidate. So that means you must have a header image. That's not the default. Completely fill out all the information. Make sure you list your portfolio, your project work, and everything else in there. Your skill section needs to be put out. And then you need to start connecting with people. And your goal is to get 500 plus, because on that LinkedIn portfolio, they want to see 500 plus connections. Now, using the social presence, you can connect with people that could hire you. And I advise that you do. And so when you connect with them, engage in their posts and their activities and say something positive and nice, and maybe they'll notice you, look at your portfolio, and they're like, oh, this person codes. Oh, this person may be a fit for my organization. And so you want to connect with many hiring managers, HR managers, and recruiters as you possibly can, and maybe even other coders, because you can put things out there like, hey, I'm open to work, I'm looking. And if you have 500 plus connections, that goes out to all of them. And if someone comments, then it goes to their seconds and their thirds. And so real quickly, you can find work by just being active on LinkedIn. So the same thing holds true for Twitter. You should probably build a Twitter following. Tech Twitter is huge. Follow the people that could hire you, interact with their tweets, And then also as a follow-up, you can use DMs or InMail on LinkedIn, maybe to say, hey, I applied to your company. What do you think? And so all of that together, building a strong social presence, helps you in becoming more visible to the people that could hire you. Now, I need you to be brave. LinkedIn follow-up, that's hard to do for a lot of us. You need to be brave to do that. I need you to get those projects on point, make them look better, function better, and get that portfolio put together and work with a recruiter. If you do all the 5 steps that we said, you'll be well on your way to getting that first software job. Now, I'm hoping that you already know how to code, but if you don't, and you'd like a teacher, a coach, or a mentor to teach you how to code, coderfoundry.com/apply, where you could apply to one of our latest cohorts, and we can teach you how to code and these 5 essential steps to get you ready for that first software job. That's coderfoundry.com/apply. Well, anyway, I hope this helps. Good luck and keep coding.